37. It's time for the Gillette Labs performance rankings.
You know, that wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. Our performances was just lacked that intensity.
Boom. Right.
It's like May all over again. It felt that every single Monday morning last season we would come on here and that top, very red, very scarlet looking tab that we have there would just have Manchester United beside it every Monday. And every Monday we'd come in and be like, not again, not again. But it's just the unavoidable task of shoving Manchester United into the bottom of the performance rankings, as has been the case for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons at this point. They disappointed Sugar Daddy Avram Glazer in the flesh yesterday, just to make things worse for them, and it was quite a comical start to life under Erik ten Hag. My favourite part, of course, was Danny Welbeck, a former Manchester United reject, running rings around them, but not just running rings around them because he's Danny Welbeck, but also running rings around them because he had a stomach issue during the week, and Graham Potter said he would have strapped the toilet onto his backside to play. It would have slowed him down, though. He was amazing.
I think it's a misquote. I think it wouldn't have slowed him down. But we all know that, like, a toilet strapped to your arse would actually have slowed you down.
He does know his physics, Graham Potter, and Welbeck was pretty good yesterday. It doesn't help Harry Maguire when his right back goes on a bit of an adventure to try and close down Leandro Trossard, and Trossard looks like Iniesta in the left wing playing that ball through, and it's disaster time for United straight away, and that sets the tone for the whole afternoon, where if United go a goal down at home right now, it seems like it's the most difficult place in the world for them to get a result. And both Ten Hag and Harry Maguire said in the aftermath that they just lost some element of belief midway through that first half. So that's a really big problem for them at the moment, because next time they're playing the Theatre of Dreams, they're going to be thinking about that. We can't go 1-0 down. We can't get off to a bad start here. They need to score first, it feels, for them to win at home at the moment.
It's just a glorious reintroduction of some of last season's plot lines, which we thought were over. It's like the writers are doing an excellent job here. You didn't think it was possible that they could tie all these strands together, but they managed to do it in 90 minutes, where Ronaldo comes off the bench and they score fairly soon afterwards. It's like, ooh, what should he have started? He said he was fit to start. Ten Hag decided he wasn't. Fred the Red high-fiving Erik ten Hag and the crowd going wild in the pre-match. It's like they had all blinked away everything that they'd learned from last season, and then he picked the last season team.
Yeah.
Basically just last season team. What? You can't do that.
Like, people asking the question, will Manchester United be better this season, while seeing a team sheet that includes Fred and Scott McTominay? Didn't seem like a question that was a very, very optimistic question, I would have thought.
We're going to play out from the back. It's like, we've got a goalkeeper who's not very good at that. Should we do this? Do you think we should go ahead with this, even though, like, the goalkeeper seems to be slightly, again, I don't know if there's a collective amnesia, but he's grand. He's like the highest paid or second highest paid goalkeeper in world football, and he's just not good at the thing that Manchester United are trying to do.
Yeah, I know. Like, yeah, that's obviously a significant problem. But imagine if midway through last season you pulled the Manchester United fan aside and was like, at the start of next season, Christian Eriksen's going to be your starting false nine. It was like, we said that to Manchester United before his miraculous comeback last season. Like, they would have been like, what are you talking about? And it's honestly been one of the best stories in sport. It's been absolutely fantastic. But I don't think anybody at Manchester United, even at the start of the summer window, even after his miraculous comeback with Brentford, would have said that would be a good way to start next season. And then they've seen that gaping wound and have just gone for the nearest container of salt, because apparently Marko Arnautovic is on the way to the club, and they are preparing an £8 million bid
for a 33-year-old
for Odion Igalo 2.0, somebody who brings Chinese football experience to the Premier League.
Well, I don't know. I was going to say, were we wrong about Mourinho, but then he stank the joint out at Spurs afterwards, so you have to say no. But he says the job he did at Manchester United to get them to second was the best job he's ever done, because you've no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And I'm starting to think he might be right. It's right. It's certainly, if he could get that team at the moment to finish second, it's up there with winning the Champions League with Porto. Like, it really is. I mean, this team at the moment stinks. They stink so bad. And they were fighting in the stands. It was a scuffle in the stands. That happens. But it's only caught on camera. They're all wearing lanyards, though. Do football fans wear lanyards? I would have thought that maybe that was kind of a posh corporate section or something in the photographs. There's photographs in one of the English papers this morning of fighting in the streets. I'm like, wow. panic on the streets of Manchester, except only on one half of the thing. Is there an easy way out? Can two good midfielders fix this? Like if you sub in 2 world-class midfielders who all of a sudden are good, is that enough to get this whole thing fixed?
No, and like when you're talking about getting something fixed in the context of Manchester United, you're obviously talking about them becoming title contenders. I think a fix this season is getting them into competition for a top 4 place, which even at this moment looks like a bit of an ask, given the form of, or given just how good some of the teams ahead of them currently look. But like I've seen a very good point made over the past couple of days, and it's that like Ten Hag and his signings and the players that maybe he wants to sign as well as those that he signed, if we include De Jong, are very Ten Hag players, and like that feels like a good thing. Like if you rewind, it's like, okay, the manager has a good degree of control at the football club, but in reality, is there anybody else helping him out there? Is there like a recruitment department that's actually throwing their weight behind this whole thing, that it's not actually just Ten Hag's ideas that are being heard and are being executed on? Like, is there joined up thinking higher up in the club, or is it simply a situation where it's like, what player do you like, Eric? Grant, let's see if we can get the money for him, and maybe in some cases we'll be able to make that signing happen. Granted, that could be a bit of a strange argument to make, because in general you want your manager to be supported, but like reading some of the writing in the aftermath of yesterday, it is like straight back to last season and even more intense. Like Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic had like a couple of cutting paragraphs here. He says, afterwards, the loudest fans were aligned to Brighton. They stayed to salute their team, and especially Graham Potter, who has reorganised his side amid the loss of 2 of his most important players in Basuma and Cucurella. It can be revealed United declined an offer to consider Potter in the hunt for Solskjaer's successor due to his lack of Champions League experience. United also stepped away from signing Moise Caicedo, who instead moved to Brighton in February 21 for £4.5 million. The 20-year-old was excellent in midfield at Old Trafford. Danny Welbeck, sold by Louis van Gaal, gave a superb display at centre-forward. United started Ericsson up top. And the juxtaposition, even with Brighton at this point, not even with a Liverpool or a Manchester City or a Chelsea or a Spurs, is something that is making them a little bit painful at this point, which kind of shows how far they've fallen. Or it just kind of shows how vast the tentacles of Manchester United pain now reach, where they can play anybody and you're like, oh, we should have got that guy, or we should have got that manager.
We had him.
Yeah.
Was it Caicedo with the back heel that set up the move for the goal?
Yeah, I think so.
There was a brilliant bit of commentary from Brian Kerr where he was talking about it's all right having a false 9, but it's no good if you've got no one playing 9 or 10 or 11. There's basically no one playing anywhere at the moment, and you're like, okay, the new movie is the same as the old movie. Now look, it's his first game, and I think from Ten Hag's perspective, I'm not judging them yet.
Yeah,
at
no
all,
one's pointing the finger at Ten Hag, I don't think.
But it's very enjoyable to watch what's going on.
No question. Like, the thing with Ten Hag is that you would probably think that on the basis of yesterday he's got a lot to learn. Like, it felt to me, even when they took off one of the midfielders, when they took off Fred in the second half, things didn't diminish. In fact, they got a greater stranglehold of the game. Now, that may be because Brighton were 2-0 up and they were retreating anyway, but it does feel that maybe on the evidence of yesterday you don't need both McTominay and Fred. But then again, we've been in this position before where you thought Manchester United managers could have come to that conclusion themselves, and that they realised that actually they kind of had to play them. So interesting times, to say the very least.
Park Stack says Q United to go on a 3-game unbeaten run. I mean, if the limit of their ambition is a 3-game unbeaten run, then perhaps Park, that might just be possible.
Well, then look, we just need to soak in this moment, because this will be the last time Manchester United will be in the red in the performance rankings. They will not be back here any other Monday morning.
Thomas Maher says, did you know that Steven Gerrard's record at Villa is the same as Gary Neville's at Valencia? 110, drawn 5, lost 13, 35% win percentage, and that was before the weekend's match.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just reading it out from our YouTube comments, right? This has not been fact checked. I mean,
sounds good.
Like, was Gary Neville's record that good? Frank says no emotional connection, Jar. After a 10-minute tirade. No, it's true, Frank. I'm like genuinely disappointed. I was looking forward to watching Premier League football where there was a hope of something happening. Like, you know, they've signed relatively well. There's a lot to like about the players. Somebody who's on Villa Twitter, he was like, Pochettino in. I was like, I mean, there are delusions of grandeur, and then there's like, and they're like, could we get him? Is that possible?
What'll happen is Pochettino will take over Aston Villa, beat Manchester United, and Manchester United will be like, we should have got that manager.
Exactly. Well, I would be happy with that. That would be a win, Owen. That would be a win. Right. So the Gary Neville record is true. I'm reliably informed here. to Gary Neville. Do we need to that's not that bad in Valencia, is it? I mean, what did they expect? I suppose Valencia, like Villa, expect better. That's it, isn't it? They should expect. They should not have the tyranny of low expectations. I'm discovering this live in the moment here, folks. You can see that. Where's next, Owen?
Next is the All Blacks, and let's fast forward to our newspaper segment this morning and bring you some of the not the back pages, the front page of the New Zealand Herald this morning. It says Ian Foster and the All Blacks. It is time for change, and it is quite blurry. It's time for an end to Ian Foster's time as head coach of the All Blacks, goes at the front of this morning's New Zealand Herald. The Herald takes no pleasure in calling for him to go, but Foster, a decent man who is out of his depth in a brutal business, must exit the role, whether he is paid out to leave, as he should be, or he voluntarily step aside. So the biggest newspaper in the country of the All Blacks has taken an editorial stance on the All Blacks head coach, which is just a remarkable step. We've been told that the All Blacks don't really get into the business of sacking head coaches, but the pressure at this point seems to have mounted that you can't really see him surviving beyond next weekend should they lose once again in South Africa. And it will be a hell of a turnaround for them not to lose once again in South Africa. The Springboks beating them with their largest margin of victory in 94 years on Saturday. 26-10 was the full-time score, and it could have been so much worse as well. I think Mark Sheahan in one of the South African papers was saying that some of the All Blacks are imposters to the legacy of the All Blacks and wouldn't be fit to tie the laces of some of those giants in black. And it could have been closer to a 30-point differential, but the respect the boys in green have for those in black kept it reasonable. So it's Ellis Park this weekend and done for Ian Foster if your eyes are open at all to what's going on at the moment. And the only question is who comes in.
Is he suggesting that the Springboks went easy on them there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the Springboks took pity on the All Blacks, according to Mark Sheahan, which is really not what you want to be seeing as a New Zealand supporter. But we were told after the series defeat to Ireland that he had 2 games to save his job, and the first of those 2 games has gone badly wrong for him. I did see it's Argentina in back-to-back games after that, so maybe if he survives this weekend, it's like repeat Argentina twice at home.
I mean, really, if you were thinking strategically, and we know Razzie does, do you just put out a team and go, lads, look, let's keep this chump in charge here for the World Cup, because obviously he ain't going to fix this. So let's lose this game, but store it in your memory bank. Let them win the 2 games against Argentina. Let them, we've changed, we're better, and then let's just crush them in the World Cup.
Yeah, could Razzie possibly overthink something in such a way?
That's not overthinking. That's like one step ahead. That's not proper chess at all. That's like, here, listen, these guys, come on.
Like we assume that a coaching change will automatically lead to the All Blacks winning the World Cup. They're down to 5th now in the world rankings. I think it might be their lowest ever spot in the world rankings. England have now leapfrogged them into the top 4 in the world rankings. But some of the writing we've seen over the last couple of months has been these players aren't fit to lace legends' boots. They just aren't good enough. Like their skill execution has been very poor, and they look very blunt in attack. Like you give the All Blacks the ball now, and you're happy enough that they might not be able to cause you too much damage unless one of their individuals comes up with something special. So is this actually just a really poor generation of players, relatively speaking, that just aren't going to be a contender at all at next year's World Cup? Are we just overthinking this entirely? Because that does seem to be the fear at the moment. That like France, for example, are waking up this morning being like, what are you doing, South Africa? Stop. Let Ian Foster bring them into the next World Cup. That's one other contender away from our quest to win our home World Cup. So I don't know. Like maybe Razor is like the guy that they all speak about down there is like the next great coach, and he's going to be the person who brings them to glory, and that'll be really interesting to see him in charge. But himself, Robertson or Schmidt, you would think is going to be All Blacks coach going into next year's World Cup.
It will be interesting to see how quickly they make the change, because the clamour for change is now, it appears so great that change is coming. And again, it's great of the writers to be able to tie all this together in season 2. We thought that maybe it was anyway. Right, so a few more. United are nearly gone bad enough to have their own All or Nothing documentary, says John Claffey. I forgot this show turns into the Manchester United finger pointing hour every August. Well, last year it lasted a bit longer than August.
Oh, we went all the way to April, May.
Yeah. And then you misspelled every Monday, says somebody else talking to him about that. Okay, So what's next? They're the red this week. We pity you All Blacks. We're sorry for your trouble, and we're really enjoying it.
Next up is just Irish in action this weekend in English football. A bit of a mixed bag. It was good to see a couple of debuts. Obviously, seeing Gavin Bazunu start for Southampton was brilliant. He made a couple of good saves. Wasn't much he could do about the goals. He did concede 4 of them. We'll get to Spurs in a moment. Spurs were exceptional, to be fair, and they look a hell of an outfit this season, even better than how they finished last season. And then obviously the other big debutant in the Premier League was Nathan Collins, who also had a bad result to kind of stick down beside his name for his full, I guess, Wolves debut anyway. So Leeds beat them late on. There was a bit of a not a schmozzle, there was a bit of a disagreement between Jesse Marsh and Bruno Lage on the sideline afterwards. That was kind of the big takeaway from that game. But Nathan Collins obviously comes away with a defeat. I don't think, again, you could be pointing the finger too much at him. So a bit of a mixed bag on that front. You had Conor Ronan and Joe Hodge on the bench for Wolves as well for that game. So that'll be one to keep an eye on as the season develops. But I guess the big winner in the Premier League from an Irish perspective was Mark Travers. Bournemouth with that result, obviously. You will have been paying close attention to that year. It was a great result, clean sheet for him. The thing is, they have signed someone else in goals. They bought a 33-year-old Neto from Barcelona. You'd like to think that as a 33-year-old he will be back up to Mark Travers, but as his first season back in the Premier League, you might think he's walking something of a tightrope, that if he goes out of form or anything like that, they do have another guy in there, but there's no sign that that's going to happen. So yeah, as I say, a bit of a mixed return from Irish players. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens as Spurs continue on this run with Matt Doherty, and if he'll get minutes. Emerson looked good at the weekend. Matt Doherty sprung late on from the bench. You'd like to think, with the way Conte was talking about last season, that in some competition at least Doherty will get a very good opportunity to stake his claim in that starting 11 and may well get back in there and may well keep that as the season goes on. And then you had Shane Duffy, of course, who came on in injury time for Fulham as well. And then there was just a couple of really positive stories from the Championship. I'm not sure, did you see that stat on Saturday? Era Guide had it that 11% of the players that started in the Championship on Saturday were Irish, 21 out of 198 of them. So this is our league now, if we want to look at Irish players. Shane Long obviously scoring for Reading on his return. You had James McLean scoring. You had Will Smallbone winning man of the match on his full debut on loan with Stoke City. So positive news. The other thing then further afield, and it's kind of one that we're going to be keeping an eye on as the season goes on, is the Irish footballers in Italy. And Aaron Connolly missed his chance to make his Coppa Italia debut because of a COVID issue again. So he's been pretty unlucky on that front down through the years. So we'll have to wait to see him over the next few weeks. So amber, fair enough, I think, for Irish players, and hopefully things start ticking into green, because, as I say, I think Nathan Collins and Gavin Bazunu, they had tough days at the office on Saturday, but neither can be criticised too much.
Yeah, I did see a little bit of backlash about the fact that Conor Cody's not in the Wolves team, and so I don't know, can they play together? Is Cody on the way out? I'm not sure. It was Ian Darke who was actually tweeting about that, and I didn't like with Bazunu. What do? You know, he just has to play. It's going to be a long season for Southampton. If you look at their transfer business, it's very strange that like most of their business is loan or city youngsters, and they're in the hunt for a bunch of loan players still. So there's a lot of business still to be done that will really decide which of those teams at the bottom, in that bottom 10, have enough quality to survive. You hope that from Southampton's perspective they do, because it'd be great for him to play in a team that had a bit of confidence and had some victories. He's definitely going to be busy. He's definitely going to get a lot of experience this season, and like ultimately as a goalkeeper, that's not a bad thing, really.
No, absolutely not. And I think somebody had it as well at the weekend that it's only 4 years since he made his debut for Shamrock Rovers. So this has been a very quick ascent from a 16-year-old into a 20-year-old who's just made his Premier League debut. So the thing is, like, there have been cases where a team is rooted to a relegation battle, which I think Southampton may well be all this season, and a defender or a goalkeeper just really stands out, and people can see the wood from the trees. You're not like, oh, that guy conceded 4 goals, therefore he's a bad goalkeeper. I think already from Saturday, people are like, I think Bazunu played well in spite of the fact that his team were under the cosh for pretty much the entire game. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that narrative develop over the course of the season, where Southampton are bad, but Southampton have a few bright sparks, and Gavin Bazunu being one of those bright sparks, and him not necessarily being a championship player next year, even if Southampton are a championship team.
Yeah, Il Pacino 88 says Gavin Bazunu is great for the Saints. Really shocked by the level of criticism that he's got from the Saints supporters. No chance for any of the goals. That's going to happen.
I didn't realise there was I saw there was Portsmouth fans, alright, getting quite a bit of joy in Gavin Bazunu conceding 4 goals, which is just bizarre, really, given it was always going to be a temporary sojourn to Portsmouth. But I hadn't really seen the Southampton fans giving him stick.
Okay. Pogba has a lot to answer for yesterday, says Damien Fury. It's true. It is true, really. His attitude has infested the club so badly that it still hangs over even though he's not there.
His attitude stunk yesterday.
Oh, it was terrible. You couldn't see him.
Body language.
He was anonymous. Absolutely anonymous. Yeah, all right. What's next?
Lads, it's Tottenham in the Green this week. You say a year away Arsenal's chances, and we can talk about them in a minute. Maybe North London should have just been in the Green of the performance rankings, but Tottenham Hotspur, other than maybe an individual performance of Erling Haaland, I think Tottenham Hotspur was the most striking performance from the weekend. I think it's nothing new. A lot of people would have predicted them to potentially even break the duopoly at the top of the Premier League this season. I say wait and see for just a couple of months before we can actually rush to that conclusion. But it's very hard to make a case that they're going to finish below Chelsea or below Arsenal or below Manchester United this season. I think they will finish third at worst this year, and that might be getting carried away with the first game of the season, but the evidence was there from last year. They have arguably the third best manager in the Premier League. Himself versus Tuchel maybe is a battle for that. You can make a case he's better than Tuchel. The attacking talent they had before Conte came in was excellent, and then they brought in Kulusevski last season. He is, he's doing great things for ginger people, let alone for Tottenham fans, and he is heralded as one of their heroes now at this point. You've got Richarlison still to make an impact. You've Perisic come off the bench at the weekend again, somebody who wasn't even there from the start of the game, and they were just awesome. It was just a complete barrage on Gavin Bazunu's goal. Obviously James Ward-Prowse scores a brilliant goal in the first half. But other than that, maybe they had one other chance. Other than that, there was no real opportunities. And Spurs, they're going to score a lot of goals this season. And they're going to be battling on 2 fronts, obviously. And that's why they've had to inflate the squad a little bit this season. But I think this Sunday they play Chelsea, and that'll be an early marker for Tottenham. It does feel like it's already a bit of a crossroads, if I can go that far, because if they lose to Chelsea on Sunday, it kind of feels like what I'm saying right now just blows up straight away, and it's like, well, that's a significant blow immediately. Whereas now it feels like they're in a position to be like, we're better than Chelsea. And I don't think anybody's making an argument that Arsenal or Manchester United are better than Tottenham. But I think when it comes, you can make an argument about Chelsea possibly being better than Tottenham. And this Sunday, Spurs can be like, nah, we're better than Chelsea. So I think it's relatively high stakes this Sunday, and it's a really exciting early game. Yeah.
It is a big game. Again, because it's so early, teams will find form and teams will find rhythms, and some of the signings will start to get match fit and all that. So there's still massive improvement to be made by these. But the thing is that it seems like Spurs are doing this off an architecture that they put in last year that really suits the group, that really suits the team, that they have all responded to Conte's probings, the wildness from that after the Burnley defeat last year. That seems to have sparked something, and the run that they're on has continued. They do appear to be getting on quite well as individuals and as a collective, and we've seen under him in the past players have improved. So he's clearly a good coach, as in whatever coaching system and ticket he has with him gets the players to be better. Their transfers last year in the window immediately impacted the team. He didn't play most of the transfers at the weekend, so he's still got room to step this up and improve it and mix things around a bit. So I would be very, very, very excited if I was a Spurs fan.
Definitely. The subs bench was one of the best Spurs subs benches I've seen in a while on Saturday. So a flavour of it is Matt Doherty, Davinson Sanchez, Perisic, Fraser Forster, Jed Spence, Lucas Moura, Longley, Bissouma. That was their bench. The depth they have now means that you'd be thinking maybe if City and Liverpool are still just a couple of inches ahead of them on the Premier League race. This feels like a squad that could do something in Europe, especially under Conte as well, where like they did under Poch all those years ago, they could cause an upset or two, and it wouldn't even be that much of an upset given some of the attacking talent they have. But we talk about Manchester United and some of the players that seem unsavable, or players that continue to let them down. it feels that there's been like a change in mentality with a couple of these Spurs players, like Eric Dyer, for example, just looks a lot more reliable. It helps that he had two, I guess, centre backs, maybe 1.5 centre backs beside him on Saturday as well, and you've got the likes of Christian Romero and Davinson Sanchez in the squad who are really, really good, and obviously Longclay's come in, so it'll help that he's going to be playing alongside quality players, and maybe Dyer won't even be in the first choice defence come the mid part of the season. But these are all just brilliant questions for Conte to answer, and he was jumping around like a madman on Saturday afternoon as well. He's really into this job, and I think he made the point that maybe this could be a mid-term gig for Conte, because that's long-term in Conte years. You
know, everybody says, oh, it's Conte, he doesn't... Martin Lipps was like, oh, it's Conte, he never stays. But, like, he never stays because there's a reason to go. Like, the job he did at Juventus and then the job with Italy... And then it was like, okay, I'm going to the Premier League, but it was Abramovich, so it was never going to last. And then after that, the job he does at Inter, but Inter are completely broke and sell his best players. Like, screw this, I'm out of here. Like, that doesn't mean that he will always leave because he always leaves. I think London might have its charms. If you're earning 10, 15 million a year, you might be able to have a nice lifestyle there.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think if you're starting a new career in Football Manager right now, like Tottenham would be one of the teams you would pick. Like, it's an exciting job, objectively speaking. So Conte's probably going to be energised by this for a while, because chances are they won't win the Premier League this season, they won't win the Champions League, but they might come close. And then next season they're like, can we come closer? So it's exciting. They're constantly in the hunt, it feels. And again, look, they beat Southampton on Saturday. So it's and we already said that Southampton could be in a relegation battle. So I think the excitement is more a continuation from last season as opposed to just getting carried away with Saturday. And to be fair, this Sunday they do come up against the Chelsea side, who, while I mean they were, I want to say fortunate on Saturday, but they grounded out on Saturday. There's still different parts of that team that look really impressive. Like Koulibaly was excellent on Saturday evening, I thought, and Thiago Silva as well. And Sterling just looks like somebody who's going to fit seamlessly into that Chelsea attack. So
Thiago Silva is Tom Brady. Like, at this stage, he's still playing at a very high level at a very advanced age. It is remarkable that he is able to do so. They do have £105 million invested in their left wing back position. It seems quite high.
Chelsea?
Yeah. It's like, how do we get to this situation?
Cucurella, yeah. Like, I mean, Tuchel is making the point that he could play along maybe other positions in the back, 3/5.
I hope so. I want a little bit of flexibility for all that money.
Like, he's a few million. You'd get Erling Haaland and have a few million spare for what they paid for Cucurella. Well, the fees that have been reported publicly anyway.
Yeah. It's just like the new owner is spending his money. He's got a big wad of cash in his pocket and he wants to get something for it.
He does. He wants
shiny and new.
Yeah, and he wants to be associated with it, it seems.
Nice punch in the face to Man City as well. It's like, yeah, exactly. So, you know, we've got an activist owner who's centrally involved in the stuff. Is that a good or bad thing?
Well, I think it tells us that we can never properly write Chelsea out of contention any season. It seems foolish, what I just said, which is that Spurs will probably finish ahead of Chelsea, because they're always around. Yeah,
but will Tuchel like this? Because say the team loses next week against Spurs and Tuchel decides to like not pick one of the players or to sub off one of the players that the new owner has been personally invested in signing. It all feels a little bit Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys to me. That, like, there's gonna be splashy stuff and he's gonna be talking a lot. And it's like, oh, I firmly believe this coach is going to win the Champions League for me, because, you know, he's already done it, but not for me. So I don't know. I see that one. You can see him just being an American version of Abramovich.
Yeah, and there could be a number of really silly signings that they make. Like, I'm not sure Cucurella is going to be that, though.
I think it's probably a very good signing.
Yeah.
It's just that it was very expensive and it seemed like it was done purely out of spite to Man City.
Yeah. Like, did we see the Chelsea tweet as well, announcing the signing? Like, apologies now, I'm going to like completely butcher this, but Brighton obviously put up a tweet a few days previously being like, contrary to media reports, Sky Sports News and Fabrizio Romano, we have not reached an agreement with Chelsea Football Club for the sale of any player. And then 2 days later, after the signing was completed, Chelsea were like, club communication, contrary to media reports, we have reached an agreement with Brighton and Hove Albion for the signing of Marco Correa. Like, salty admin. Probably just Todd Bowley. He's got the password to the Twitter account.
He does. I would not be surprised if he has all those passwords. Okay, so that's that situation. You have completely. You must be very excited for all the despair that I feel after the opening day of the season. You must be very, very excited about Arsenal not doing what they did last year and ruining the start of the first 6 months of the year, not giving you any chance to get into this. Yes, these are my boys. They are your boys.
Yeah, it would just be it would just be great if this had all happened like 12 months earlier, because there is just a chance that Spurs and Chelsea are just going to be too good and better than Arsenal all season, even though Arsenal looked like they could be very good all season. Like Gabriel Jesus looked good on Friday night. It's like you sign a proven player from the Premier League and he looks like a proven player in the Premier League. Zinchenko looked good, and of course they're a shiny new thing, and that'll be great, and they've got their Premier League medals, so like there's no real surprise there. But William Saliba at centre back was possibly the most important performance to look out for on Friday night, and he excelled as well. And you talk about options in the heart of that Tottenham defence. Well, Arsenal are going to have that exact same thing as well, as soon as they've got their full choice full backs back with Tomiyasu coming back in at right back, who's actually going to be their centre back partnership. So Mikel Arteta also has good headaches to deal with. Fabio Vieira is going to come into that midfield, and things look very rosy all of a sudden for Arsenal. I still doubt that they'll finish any higher than fourth, but they're in the conversation for fourth, and I think they kind of need to get it for this project to look optimistic at the end of the season.
Well, they also are playing really exciting football with one of the most talented group of kids playing football anywhere in the world at the moment. That's the best part, right?
Yeah, no, it is, to be fair, and like it's Martinelli and Saka on Friday night as well looked really good, and obviously they're the goal scorers essentially. I know Saka's was an own goal in the end, but yeah, that's the really exciting part about it all. And as I say, Saliba has been part of that coterie of young players that have been talked about at Arsenal for quite some time, and Saliba was filed under OTBAM / Ozil just a few years ago, where I thought that Arteta didn't fancy him and Arteta was going to get it all wrong, and maybe he actually got this one right. And it seems that if he comes and plays a lot of games this season and is really good, he'll have been proven right in that regard. So that is definitely the most exciting part about it. These players that maybe not a whole pile of people would have known about until they actually came through the ranks at Arsenal or were signed by Arsenal at a very young age. That gives you hope that the recruitment and the processes in place behind the scenes are actually working.
All right, Conor Cody going to Everton on loan, it looks like. So the Wolves fans can cry all they want, but he ain't going to be playing football for them this year. It looks like there is apparently a medical underway, depending on what you're reading this morning, with regards to that one. The other thing, of course, is that Chelsea signed Karni Chukwuemeka for 20 million from Villa. Villa's best player is no longer at Villa because they couldn't give him enough game time last season. It's like, really?
Yeah, and like, what's he going to do at Chelsea this season? Like, maybe he's like ready to break through and play for a top 6 club now, but it felt like Aston Villa was almost the perfect level for him. And I wouldn't have even been surprised if it was like Chelsea buy him and then put him straight back on loan to Villa, because maybe that's what he needs at this point. But maybe not. Like, he does look absolutely class, so he could play a significant amount for Chelsea this season.
We'll see. We will see. I wish him all the very best. Next.
The last thing in our performance rankings this morning is Kilkenny All-Ireland Camogie champions. Once again, it looked like it was going to be relatively easy for them. They were 6 points up after 20 minutes, and then Cork just raced back into the game before half-time, and I think Cork were 2 points up with 3 minutes left to play. And I think we all predicted Kilkenny in our quick picks on Friday as well, and I was like, this is how it goes. You know, we've put the hex on Kilkenny once again, but Sophie Dwyer comes up with this dramatic late goal, and it's not a goal to win the game because Cork come back into it, and then Kilkenny need to get a late free to actually win the game themselves. But that Sophie Dwyer goal was really important, and I think the drama kind of holds, given her her story arc this season, where she walks away from the intermediate panel at the start of the year, says, I'm good enough to play for the senior team. Brian Dowling was talking about this after the game yesterday, and he was like, you know, she wasn't in the starting 15, and she wasn't in the starting 15 even at the end of the season, and she was struggling to get game time. And it was only as the summer started to heat up that she started to get more significant game time off the bench and put in really big contributions as the season wore on. And then yesterday, coming off the bench, made the biggest contribution of all to score the goal that wins the game. And Kilkenny, maybe there was questions a few years ago about them being in tight games and where their mettle was. I think yesterday they've proven that actually when the game's in the melting pot, they're as good as any team as actually getting a win in those tight situations. Obviously devastated by the semi-final defeat last year, and they seem to have turned it on its head yesterday. I still think that it was very, very close. That we can draw these grand conclusions about Kilkenny mettle and all that, and still, last puck of the game, Aisling Thompson has the ball in her hand and it goes wide, and when she when she goes for that effort, I'm thinking, right, this is a draw. We're going to another day here, but it just drifts wide, and sometimes that happens. And Kilkenny, they will write the story of yesterday because they are the victors, and it's been a hell of a 2020 or 2022 for them on so many levels, just given the personal tragedies that have struck the management team, and then obviously all the people who've retired, players travelling. A couple of players who did cruciates, two sisters, the Doyle sisters did cruciates within weeks of each other at the start of the season. So all this sort of stuff kind of built up over the course of the year, and it's been a hell of a journey that they've been on this season, and they just about got it done yesterday.
We're going to come back to this a little bit later on with Fiona Hickey,